How's everyone?
Kind of multitask.
Smith is multitasking over there doing laundry, and Schubert.
That's right.
I was doing laundry, but it's busy.
Yeah, you know the male power. I gotta use this male power to fold these clothes, bruh.
Yes, we gotta get this. We gotta get this intro, man. I'm gonna try to play it next week.
All right. Well, you're assigned as the official DJ for this podcast.
I gotta figure out.
Yeah, you're the intro dude. You're the intro and outro dude.
You know how they do the little radio? They push the little button now, coming down a little bit.
Yeah,
that's what I want. That's what I need, bro.
Well, if
Listen, if
we're
you gonna do all that,
yeah.
When you introduce me, I want Black Zeus with some thunder and lightning in the background.
Bro, I don't think I know. We got to put all that in the introduction, bro. I don't know how to do that.
All right, well, I gotta think of something creative. What's up?
Who edited the official introduction? I mean, the one we got right now.
I did.
Yeah, bro, you can put us all in it. Do we gotta do like what's the name where we make like a black lightning or so and so, and then you just like edit our names in?
Yeah, I think of something.
Big black lightning.
Black Zeus, okay? Black Zeus.
Oh, my bad, bro. My bad.
Oh, Black Zeus, yeah. He messing it all up.
My bad.
Yeah, Black Zeus has thunder. He doesn't have lightning. It's the
No, he has
thunder
lightning.
that rumbles.
What's
The thunder?
now?
makes
We
the
gotta
rumble.
give you thunder, bro. How the hell are we supposed to hear lightning?
That's true.
Well, you can hear doesn't lightning make a cracking sound? Like
That's
once it's
thunder. Lightning comes
That's
first.
thunder.
And thunder goes
When lightning
after.
hits something, it does make a cracking sound.
Yeah, when lightning hits something,
It's
it makes
more like
a
a
cracking
fricker-
sound.
It's
Yeah.
like a fricker frying sound.
Something.
Yeah.
If it hits something, I thought
Yeah,
thunder was the one that made
But
the
it's
noise.
not hitting
Nah.
anything, man.
Thunder hits and makes the noise in the sky. But
Yeah.
when lightning comes down and connects with something,
It
like
makes
a tree,
a crack.
which I
Yeah.
heard, it makes a crack.
It makes a cracking sound. Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
more,
just to
it's
be
more
clear,
like it's kind of like that crackling sound you get when you burn wood in a fireplace,
yes.
but
Yeah.
tenfold.
Black
Exactly.
Zeus, Black Zeus, do you want the
Yes, sir.
lightning? Do you want the lightning sound or the thunder sound?
You
Just to
want
be
the-
clear.
I think he wants both.
Sound.
Let's go with the
Well,
thunder.
All right.
Want the thunder.
All right, and I'm gonna
You
come
want
up
the
with
tickling of the lightning. Or the,
Listen to Smith. The
booming of the
tickling
thunder.
of the lightning. Yeah. What was I gonna say? I gotta think of a name now.
All right, no doubt. You're gonna help me with that then.
No, I said I gotta think of a name.
Oh.
Mhm.
He was like, yeah, I already got my assignment. I'm the official DJ. Everything
That's it.
else, the creative stuff, you gotta do that. You're on your own.
Help me with this.
All right,
All
Brad,
right,
where we
fellas.
at?
All right, so we're gonna start off with some news, some economy news. So Century 21, the retail store, files for bankruptcy, closing all their stores. I don't know if you guys recall, a couple of weeks ago, Lord & Taylor filed for bankruptcy, and they're officially closing all their stores. So 2020 has been the year of the retail apocalypse. If you actually take the time to Google retail apocalypse, there's like a litany of stores, retail stores, just gone, just no longer going to be in existence. And
That
we're
will
not
never
talking
be
about-
here.
yeah, and we're not even talking about small time, no name stores either, which, there are some to be, out there, but we're talking about big franchisee stores. And unfortunately, this economy is just in the toilet.
Yeah.
Next up is the second stimulus was rejected this past Thursday. So for all of you folks who was receiving $600 a week, which ended back in July, unfortunately, our government officials could not come up with a second stimulus. So therefore, people are shit out of luck. And unfortunately, they're going to go on recess in a couple of weeks on October 2nd, and they're not expected back in Washington until the elections.
So
So
let me get this straight. These bastards went on vacation in August before trying to figure out if they're going to help people out. Come back from their vacations that taxpayers are paying for and said, fuck you guys. And now they're going back on vacation again.
in a couple of weeks, yes.
God bless America.
Yeah.
Bless America.
You don't think any of this has to do with the tactics? Since it's an election year.
The election.
Some of the
Vote for me
detail.
if you want to get your checks, bitches.
For real.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because you could bail out Wall Street and large corporations, but handing out several $100s a week to its citizens, they got to make a big fuss about it. Unfortunately, this time around it was the Senate Republicans that were the one who rejected the bill, and essentially they felt like there should be other means to stimulate the economy. Some of it will be taking out the PPP funding, school funding, and liability shield measures. But they do want to, if I am reading this correctly,
you said is that PPP or PPE?
PPP.
Okay.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I personally believe something might come down the pipeline, but I don't know. Our Congress has a low approval rating, and it doesn't seem like they're very sufficient in what they do. Don't know why we elect them there in the first place, but
when has government ever been sufficient in what they do?
And you're absolutely right. And there's actually a great economics book that I do want us to read at some point in our book club, which is called Economics in One Lesson, and just talk about the inefficiency of government. But that's the stimulus. Next up, this bit of news actually impacts people like myself. New Jersey takes action to stop landlords from refusing to rent to people receiving government aid. So essentially, there was 100 some odd complaints saying that landlords was being discriminatory against people who were receiving, Section 8 vouchers.
Section 8?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much you cannot blatantly say or reject someone who's on government assistance as a landlord. I learned.
Wait, I thought it was always like that though.
It was, and to your point, Smith, yes, it was relatively always like that. I'm a relatively new landlord, so I'm just now learning these laws. But yeah, you can't blatantly say we do not accept Section 8 Section 8 vouchers.
There's always a way around that though, because you could just make up another excuse for why they didn't get it.
Correct. You could make up another excuse.
But you can't blatantly say that. It's like like Trump was saying he wasn't basically going to let any blacks live in his apartment buildings.
Yeah, you can't say anything blatant.
You can't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it and it can be felt, but you can't say it.
Yeah, so they're cracking down. So they're trying to pass what they call the Project Home, which is the Housing Opportunity Made Equal Act in New Jersey, basically holding landlord more accountable for their advertising of their properties. If you're a landlord, some landlords do not do Section 8. I know quite a few. I'm one of them. And there's other landlords who are very welcoming. I do know those landlords. So, this is more government intrusion in regards of how you want to will and deal. I'm not trying to, mean any particular way.
Why do landlords not? Why are landlords turned off? Because here's the thing. Section 8 is pretty much a guaranteed check, backed up by the government.
Yeah.
Is it that the landlord doesn't want that money? Or is it the fact of the people that move into the place, not all, but because when it's not your money that you work for and it's not your property, you don't care. You don't take care of the property, you do damage to the property,
That's it.
And then the landlord eats that cost.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it too, I know. I remember speaking to Tahir about this, one of my other friends. But
who's a realtor and who owns several Section 8 housing.
He was saying that, the houses do have to be kept up to code a lot faster. So if like something goes wrong, landlord's got to fix it right away. So, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean?
The biggest thing is that Section 8 brings a mentality. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And the mentality is what most landlords don't want to deal with. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Section 8 brings the neighbor that is playing music at 5 o'clock in the morning when the neighborhood is going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning.
You know what, though, Smith?
A lot of people don't want to bring that Section 8, even though it's a guaranteed check. They also destroy the property. I know because I've had some friends who were on Section 8 who fucked up and destroyed the properties. And I'm like, yo,
same
that
thing
shit
happens
is ghetto
to my
as hell.
siblings.
But yeah, it's a ghetto ass mentality, and like you said, because I'm not paying for it, I could care less about it, and I'll destroy your shit, and then I'll move on to the next house and destroy that shit too.
Exactly.
So landlords don't want that issue. I don't want to have to keep taking down sheetrock and putting up sheetrock every time a Section 8 individual moves out, and it's not everyone, but you know.
Here's my question though, and this is just really about the article: were these landlords in affluent areas, or were they in like
it didn't necessarily it didn't necessarily
because
it's not the law is not necessarily specified in regards to a geographic location. It's just more so they just want to stop the practice of landlords being actively apparent in regards of their discriminatory practice.
I'd have to think.
And Henry, hear this though. What affluent? So you think there's a Section 8 in Short Hills?
No, they got some in Montclair though, and Jason was telling me about that.
But Montclair, as a whole, is not an affluent neighborhood though.
Yeah.
No,
well, every municipality,
it's places that you can consider better to do, but it's not. Montclair is not considered an affluent neighborhood. I don't think.
I mean, when
I could be wrong. Montclair. No, but hold on. I could be
Upper Montclair, yes.
But New Jersey, every municipality has a certain percentage of what they deem affordable housing. Now, affordable housing and Section 8 is two different things.
Exactly.
But they kind of weave in some of that Section 8 sort of, language in there. But every town or municipality has, affordable housing Section 8 to a degree.
Affordable housing still brings a different mentality. If my rent is based off of my income, that means I'm working, so I'm still going to have a certain amount of pride in, the area or the house that I'm living in, because I'm putting in money. I do have friends who make, who live based off of what they make. So I have one friend who his rent is $30, and I said, bruh, how you ain't making it and your shit $30, bro? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, so that's my thing though. If you're renting in a certain area, you know that you're gonna get a certain type of tenant. I mean, that's my thing. So like, you gonna have that mentality whether he's Section 8 or not, depending on the area. Because take it back to Tahir, he is renting in Newark in the middle of the hood. So it's just like, I can't not saying that you don't want a certain type of renter, but what comes along with the territory.
Yeah, no, there are some renters on Section 8 that have a high standard of living. It's just about a standard, man. That's what it is. And about, I could be on Section 8, but it's about my standard. You know what I mean? It's about my standard of living. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what separates our suburbs from our urban communities, our standards, and what we're willing to live around and be around. Am I willing to throw this shit on the ground, or am I willing to walk into the trash can?
Yeah. And
standards, man.
What bothers me about this new act, though, is the whole discriminatory on income. So to further elaborate on that, so like, let's say you're renting out a unit that's $2,000, but they're receiving, let's say $1,000 voucher. Typically, as a landlord, you might base someone's ability to rent based on their income. So if your rent is $2,000, you want to look to see someone pulling in $4,000 a month in income. With this new act, they want to crack down on discriminatory practice on income. So they want you to factor in that voucher amount when you're doing the income assessment. So if the voucher is $1,000 and your unit's $1,000, their income should only be $2,000. $2,000. Yeah, rather than being the typical $4,000 that you would normally do to rent out the unit. So, they kind of dictate how you should operate. I don't know. It's one of the many reasons why, some people have kind of left the whole landlord business, because there's just too many laws, and New Jersey is one of those tenant-friendly states.
Yeah, New Jersey is one of those that I can live in your house proudly forever and not pay you rent, and it's hard as hell for you to kick me out.
Exactly.
Because New Jersey is that state.
Yeah, New Jersey is that state. So
I know.
Yeah, New Jersey protects the hell out of criminals, boy.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, like my neighbor, he's done. He's looking to sell his properties. He's done with being a landlord. He's done.
Well, I know. My wife and I are looking into it. You know, when we move, I'm definitely moving to a landlord-friendly state.
Well, listen, my sister, had a couple properties, this, that, and the other, and she dealt with everything from faulty lawsuits to damage of the property, people not paying the rent. It was just like, and the whole thing is their mentality, the ones that she would deal with, and she would deal with Section 8. She would deal with the Section 8 and everything, and their mentality would always be, oh, she want all this money from us, but she driving a Lexus or something like that. And it's just like, dude, for any service or good, there is a price, and and that's just what it is. Nothing for free.
Yeah.
You can't just expect people to give you a handout for everything.
Yeah, and to piggyback what your sister is doing, at the end of the day, these vouchers, you can go and, find different housing with this voucher. You don't have to pick Schubert's sister. I don't have to go and live where your sister's asking for this amount for rent. This is what the rent is going. If your voucher can't cover it, then you need to find someplace else to live. It's very simple.
It's very simple. All right, next up, Amazon is hiring 33,000 new employees with an average compensation of $150,000. They're going to launch what they call a career day this Wednesday, actually, September 16th. So hopefully anyone who's looking for a job out there, you just go to the Amazon website, register, and you'll be booked an appointment to actually do a virtual, meet with a virtual recruiter. So
did you say, hold on.
If you work for Amazon and you left Amazon, you have to be away from Amazon for a year before you can work back with Amazon.
Really? I did not know that.
My dumb cousin is going through that right now.
I like how you had to preface it. Yeah, my dumb cousin.
They're like, you gotta wait a year, bro. You gotta wait a whole year.
Wow.
So, did you say that they're averaging the salary is an average of $150,000?
That's how it's advertised on Forbes. An average compensation of $150,000. So these jobs really are what I read was mostly corporate and the technology.
Oh, I'm about to say, send me a link, bro. Yeah. $150K, send me the link. I'm about to apply.
Yeah, they're not paying $150K to stuff boxes.
Yeah, they're not. They're not.
Paying that for you to stuff boxes. Relax.
Sign
getting your hopes
me up.
He's like, I know I just got a promotion, but she.
Yeah, like box that. I'm gonna stuff the hell out that box.
Some mindless work.
In entertainment news, Microsoft is now releasing 2 Xbox consoles in November. The Xbox Series X is going for $499. The Xbox Series C is going for $299. And you can start your pre-orders September 22nd. Tesla has a new rival competitor in the market called Lucid Air. They're basically in the electrical vehicle manufacturing, and essentially their starting price vehicles are $80,000, which I don't understand how these cars are priced so high based on the number of unemployment who are buying these cars, but it is what it is.
There will always be the well-off and eccentric.
Wait, what car was that? I missed it, man.
Yeah, it's Lucid Air. It's a new manufacturer. Yeah, Lucid Air. New manufacturer.
They're not the one that's making the Nikola.
Nikola. Nah.
Nikola.
Yeah, not the same one. It's another one. I actually YouTube this vehicle. Look, I'm not a car aficionado, so I looked at the car. I was like, it's impressive, but shit, I ain't dropping $80,000. First off, you got to put a charging port in your house, and I ain't trying to do all that.
You're not, but you're not the customer that they're looking for. They're looking for the eccentric. They're looking for those that want to say, "Look what I have."
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not looking for the person that says, "I'm not spending that kind of money." That's
in the process of building their house from the ground up and putting that port in there already.
Yeah.
Just cause.
But $80,000 for their
base model.
That's their base model. Yeah.
Well, it probably got a lot of bells and whistles on it.
I guess, man. I looked at it. I was just like, I did do a YouTube lookup, and it looks pretty good.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. And last but not least, former Jets player Joshua Bellamy charged in a $24 million PPP fraud scheme. Bellamy is accused of working with 10 named co-conspirators to submit at least 90 fraudulent loan applications in exchange for kickbacks. Bellamy is accused of fraudulently obtaining $1.25 million in PPP loans. Some of his expenses has been $104,000 on jewelry, $62,000 on luxury goods,
$10,000 a month on laundry,
and several $1,000s on his recording entertainment, Drip Entertainment Studios, and other miscellaneous items. Yeah, Drip Entertainment. So meanwhile, you got honest people trying to sustain their small businesses, applying for the PPP loans. Here you got a former player, and he's one of many in the past several weeks who've been busted for fraudulently applying for this loan and getting money. And once again, this is another reason why government has pitfalls, because they kind of dole this out to the banks to facilitate with no rules, no regulations, really, and no guidance actually into how this should be done. And essentially now all of these fraudulent applications are surfacing.
Wow. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more coming up.
There'll be a lot more coming up. Actually, I think Atlanta, somebody who was featured on Love and Hip Hop or one of those reality shows, he was busted some couple of weeks back in regards of his fraudulent claims.
What do do you know what they're asking him to do? Do we got to pay it back? I mean, $24 million. That's not a light low right there.
It's not a lot. Look, of course he'll be paying it back because that's a federal offense.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm saying he got to pay it back and jail time.
Yeah, more than likely. Whenever you commit, fraud like on that level, there's always that payback in addition to jail time. I just hate
people just don't be thinking, man. That's just dumb as hell, bro. Like, you going to do a hustle.
The sickening part about it all is the fact of what's the bare minimum salary in the NFL? 500,000.
500,000.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah.
Right, I think it was 500,000. It's like the bare minimum that you can pay a player to play, to even sit on the bench.
Sit on the bench, 500,000.
During a time when people are struggling and barely getting by and scraping, you're going to rip off the government of all people, and you're a high-profile individual. And the fact of, during this time when all these other organizations that got busted, like the LA Lakers, they got busted with the
with the PPP,
yeah, with the SBA and everything.
I think Ruth House Steakhouse or something. I'm pretty.
Ruth Chris.
Yeah, Ruth Chris. Yeah.
Like, how greedy and how stupid are you? You got to kind of wonder.
Well, you know what? I would say with the Lakers and Ruth Chris, they did it as ethically if it was wrong, but they did it legally. Whereas, unfortunately for Joshua Bellamy, he was straight up fraud. Like, he filed the application out saying that he was running a business and he never had a business.
He went into it to defraud the government.
Yeah, he went into it. The other one,
it was legal for me to just take this money from the poor people.
Exactly. You could. Exactly.
I can. Oh, well, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But it is what it is. All right, fellas. Now we could transition on to the book. I don't know about you. Chapter 11 and 12 had me some type of way. When you start talking about disparities in crime and convictions, I felt some type of way, but we'll get into that. So we got 4 questions of the week. Let's start with Henry's. Pretty much, how can we chastise blacks or the abandoned for complaining about injustice when they don't fight to better their situation, but not hold men to the same standard when it comes to their being treated unfairly when it comes to the opposite sex? And for those who are listening, the abandons is a reference from a book we read not too long ago The Disintegration of Black America by Eugene Robertson. At some point, I think, fellas, we should do a highlight of all of the books we read this year so that we could just put it out there. But go ahead, Kel. What was your reasoning behind this question?
Well, I mean, I'm just reading through the chapters and seeing all these injustices that's being done, and just think about the conversations from the past weeks. I mean, at some point, we can't just keep saying, "Oh, we're the victim," or "Hey, it's been ingrained in us." When you think about slaves who fought back, and people in the in the 60s who fought back, and then even I know last week there was a point made like you have men, the men are being raised by the women, and that's what they're teaching them. But what about the men? So the men who aren't raising these kids or aren't around, do they have the same mentality? Like, are they being taught the same message as the boys? Like, there has to be some men who feel like, okay, this isn't fair. This is the way that it should be. And we're actually going to stand up and fight instead of, oh, well, it's just been ingrained. That's the way that society has. Like, women are fighting, blacks fight, people who feel like stuff isn't fair, they fight. But then it's just like, oh, well, it's been ingrained. This is what society expects. We know, and I even looked up a couple articles. I'll say this, then I'll let one of y'all speak. I did look up a couple articles to see if stuff like this is still going on. You got women who are like murdering their husbands, getting away with it. It is still going on today. So like, at some point, the excuse can't just be, well, this is ingrained in us. This is what society says, and we're being raised by women, and there have to be enough men out there who are going to stand up and say something.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Shu. Black Zeus.
So, all right. So, number one, slaves knew that what was being done to them wasn't right. They knew that they were slaves. They knew it was injustice. Women knew that, the way they were being treated aren't right. Majority of men, like even us, as we're reading this group, are just now becoming aware of this. Majority of men have no clue of like the 12 defenses. They have no clue of these injustices, the unfairness between the prison for a prison system for a man versus prison for a woman. There's no idea of like nobody. The thought process doesn't click. Like, hey, she wants to vote, but she doesn't want to sign up for selective service. Like that, when that thought is not in your knowledge or not in your scope, how could you even realize you're in a cage if you can't see the cage? So the whole thing is that you're saying it as if it's just common knowledge of all this information that we ourselves are just now becoming aware of. Secondly, is that going back to what was being said about boys being raised by women, when they're being raised by women and they think this is what's right, this is what's supposed to be, once again, how would they ever consider themselves to be a victim in a situation or understand that they're not being treated fairly? If you have no other scope, you have no other view, you have no other knowledge, who can fault you for, not realizing that you're a prisoner in a cage? If you've only seen these four walls all your life and you think that is the extent of the world. You understand what I'm saying? So, to say like, well, how come men aren't speaking up? Now, there are men speaking up. There's a whole movement of men speaking up. They're called MGTOWs, men going their own way. And, they're perceived as, ludicrous or
incels.
Or incels,
Yeah.
they're perceived as what's the word I'm looking for? They're perceived as the weirdo.
So then they stop.
No, they don't stop.
They don't stop.
They have whole communities.
But their platforms get infiltrated.
Communities, that, and the other. They have a whole thing going on. But the whole thing is, you don't hear about them because there's so very few of them.
That's very few.
Yeah, so the whole thing is, you might have one amongst you out of 200, 300 men, right? And to the other, 199, that guy sounds like an idiot. What are you talking about? Oh, I'm not going to spend my life trying to impress a woman. I'm not going to die for a woman. I'm not going to be subjected to the system.
Smith.
It is all that couple. I asked you all a few weeks ago if you all had an older male that you talked to or that you could talk to. And most of you said you did. All of you said you did. I say that because to answer that, Kel, where are these men groups? If you don't have men that are raising the boys to become men, how do you know this? You know what I mean? If you still have these women raising. When you were talking about the other select men group, I do know that one, but I thought you was going to talk about the transgender man, that they're up and coming and speaking out more. So there's right now, the man is a whole man, hungry, strong, meat-eating man. That's hard to find. All right. You have your prison population, which you have a lot of men. That's different. Where you had men and they were growing up. I remember being in the Boy Scouts, but now that I look at it, the Boy Scouts might have affected me differently. I was never touched, praise Lord, you know what I mean? But even in the Boy Scouts, they're not raising them to be men. They're raising them to fucking manipulate each other's bodies and shit and do weird shit like that. So you gotta.
Not for nothing. Even the Boy Scouts being infiltrated by girls that want to be part of the Boy Scout.
But it's no longer even called those Boy Scouts. It's called the Scouts or something. I think they got rid of the boys.
It's Scouts now?
Yeah, because the girls wanted to be in on the Boy Scouts for some strange reason.
Because the Girl Scouts, they don't do all of the things that the boys do to earn their badges.
So what I'm saying is, I hear everything that y'all are saying, but at one point, it was also the norm for women to act a certain way. So women, children, young girls growing up were being taught by both of their parents, this is a woman's role, this is what a man does. And then at some point, a woman decided to say, well, this isn't right. We're going to stand up and fight, even though they were living in the same cage. A man didn't come to the woman and be like, hey, we know that that you were living in this invisible cage, but let me make you aware of this cage. It was a woman who realized.
Henry, it was a scenario that happened. Man. Because here's what happened. When men went to war.
Hold up. So, y'all both was talking at the same time. Who wanted to go?
Sorry. So when men went to war during, I think, World War II, that's when women had to fend for their own and they had to go out and get a job. They had to go out and get a job, make some money, this, that, and take care of the family because their husband got drafted or their man got drafted, this, that, and the other. Women started working, making their own money, this, that, and the other. Men came back from war, telling me, all right, babe, get back in the kitchen. I'll get to work and this, that, and the other. She had a little small taste of that independence, of that money in her own pocket.
And she developed a skill set.
And then once that happened, she said, oh, no, I'm not going back into the kitchen. I mean, because the whole thing is, if you've never been outside the box, how would you know? But once you've been outside the box and you've seen sunlight, you felt air, you've seen mountains and trees and grass and meadows, do you want to go back to the box? Of course not.
And then at that point, the man wasn't smart enough to say what? Like, oh, okay, well, she's just changing, so I'm just going to stay the same.
No, what I'm saying, Henry, is...
But go ahead, Smith.
Look, I think the man did change. I think the man spoke up. But remember, when man speaks up, man becomes ostracized, okay?
Exactly.
So man speaks up and nobody moves when man speaks up. Man has to wait until women comes into the company and speaks up for the same thing that man was trying to get to happen 2 weeks ago before the shit will happen. So it's not that men aren't speaking up, it's just that men aren't listened to. Other men don't listen to men. So if you got a man at the top, he's going to listen to the woman because they got this hero mentality. You know what I mean? I gotta save the woman. I don't get about the man. Remember, the man is disposable. So you have people that are speaking out, but nobody is listening to the men that's speaking out. Therefore, when you're talking about going back to the book, with the homeless population is like that, most of those men that are homeless are people that spoke out. And when you speak out, you kind of lose everything because it's like, oh, you don't want to be a man? Well, then, God damn it, there's no place in this world
You're
for
out
you.
of the club.
You're out of the club.
So y'all saying the only reason why women were treated unfairly is because they didn't speak up. And once they started speaking up, then they got treated fairly. So they weren't allowed to vote because they didn't say, hey, we want to vote. But then once they started saying, oh, we want to vote, then they get the vote. Oh, we weren't getting paid fair. All they had to do was just speak up. There was nothing else that went along with it. And men just said, okay, cool, that's fine. That's what we're saying.
They spoke. Yeah. Yes, they spoke up.
Yeah. And when they spoke up but now here's the thing. Here's the thing. So what you're saying is that, men need to speak up. And who are they speaking up to? The women that don't listen to them, or the men that are already brainwashed and say, nah, bro, that's not the way it's supposed to be. Exactly. So you got two sides against you.
So, but then that's like a knock on us to see that, okay, women thought that things were unfair. All they had to do was speak up, and now things get changed. Now we're saying that stuff is unfair, but we're not smart enough to realize that it is. And we're not going to fight for it.
Here's the thing. When you have a whole entire nation of women that are all under one law, no woman can vote. No woman can do this. All black people got to sit in the back of the bus. You can unify a people very easily because they all have the same common enemy. But when you have a group of men that don't see it all the same way, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. A real man will do this. A real man will do that. And you have all these different viewpoints and these different standards and this, that, and the other. You're not getting all men on one accord.
Yeah.
No.
That's a brilliant point. Yeah.
You gotta have a common, goal, a common enemy.
Exactly. Like I'm not going through child support like someone that we might mutually know. So his struggles with dealing with the child support and family court, I might not be sympathetic to that. I am, being that I've already known several guys who's been through child support and the rigor in which, it drags them through. But you have a lot of men like, yo, I don't got kids like that, so it ain't my problem.
So then every man who does have a child and has gone through that should be standing up. Every man who does have an issue with the fact that we got to pay for dates or, women only want to take on half of whatever, every single one of them should be standing up. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if you have, and I get we're all not fighting the same exact fight, but if I have a kid and I'm paying child support and then we all come together, and then Smith has an issue with the fact that like we have to pay for women, or divorce goes, however it is, and he gets all of those men together. And then Shub, you got an issue with the fact that like women don't want to come into service. You get all of those men together. And Brad, you have an issue with the fact that women, don't want to pay for dates. Now we're all coming together. Yes, we all have different issues, but the common enemy is the woman. And we're all standing up for the fact that in one way or another, we're being treated unfairly.
Smith, go ahead.
Stop there, Henry. Listen to this, man. So this is the problem with that. Okay. Man has to provide. Okay. Women, if I'm at home being the homemaker, I have time to organize, I have time to do posters, I have time to fundraise, I have time to do these things. Understand, as the man that's going out and I'm working these hours because ain't nobody trying to hear me protesting shit. I got to work these hours to bring home this bread, to bring home this money in order to keep this because, like you said, when a woman meets me, she's going to say, well, I met a lawyer. She's not going to say I met a great father. You understand? She's going to say whatever my profession is. She's going to go home and say, Ma, I met this garbage man. Ma, I met this.
But that's the mentality that we're trying to change.
Are we, though, as a collective? We're not.
I'm saying. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Women have more time on their hands to organize these things that they're fighting for. All right? I think that they have more time to organize these things. I don't think that man has enough time. He has a lot of stress load, and I don't think he has enough time to sit and say, hey, we're going to go and march for this. Hey, we're going to do this. Hey, we're going to start this. When you sit at home, that's why we were saying that working from home shit is, whoever sent that Billy Nunn, that shit was spot on. Mm-hmm. That working from home, I got the kids. I'm so hard. I'm doing all this working from home. That's a farce. The kids go to school. While the kids at home, guess what? I got time to plot and think. I got time to come up with a plan of how I want to take over the world as a woman. Shit.
So where's that? Go ahead, Sue.
If we look back on,
and we'll end it with Sue and go to the next question.
Going back to the book, right? Disintegration between the splintering of Black America. When all Black Americans had one common goal, you know, whether it be apartheid, whether it be Jim Crow law, slavery, we all, no matter where you were, South, North, it was the same problem. You know, whether you came on one boat or another, it was the same problem. Everybody got the same problem. We all can get on one accord because we all got the same problem. Once the problems became different, then you had the abandoned, then you had the emergent, then you had the mainstream, then you had the transcendent, and now we don't all have the same problems. The abandoned feels like, listen, there's nothing I can do. There's no options. There's no hope for me. This, that, and the other. The mainstream feels like the abandoned needs to pull up by a bootstrap. The emergents feel like, oh, all you Black Americans are lazy. Y'all got every type of resource here in America, and y'all still not doing it yourselves. You know, you're this, that, and the other. The transcendent are like, listen, I got too much on the line. I done worked too hard to get here. I'm as close to white as I'm going to be. I'm not going to chance losing all of that. When you have all different viewpoints and different, you know, things on the line, it's almost damn near impossible, you know, for you to get all on one accord. You know, they say you can please some of the people all of the time, and you can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't get all of the people all of the time. And that is one of these situations, because like I said, there are groups such as the incels and the MGTOWs, like
MGTOW and MRAs, yeah,
and they're considered, you know, like I told you, outcast. When you're considered outcast, the people who do have authority in positions that can, you know, have the ability to change it aren't hearing you. Like, if you have this conversation with 9 out of 10 women, I'm not gonna say 9 out of 10. I'm just gonna say with quite a few women, right? Instead of them hearing, hey, these are my struggles as a man, what I go through, they want to try to hit you with some bullshit of, oh no, our struggle was this and that and the other. I'm not saying that you don't have a struggle. I'm telling you what my struggle is. Hear me. And they spend less time hearing what your struggle is and trying to empathize versus trying to compete with you and show you that your struggle is nothing compared to theirs. Just for an example, there was a time I came into work, I had a headache. Someone says to me, hey, you don't look so good. You all right? I said, I got a headache, you know, that's been bothering me all day. One of the women there says, oh, men always complain about, you know, they pain, this, that, and the other. Try having a baby. Oh, wait, hold up, motherfucker. I'm still at work. You know, I'm still at work. I said I have a headache. I didn't cry to nobody. Somebody came and asked me how I'm feeling. What the fuck does my headache got to do with you making a baby? All of a sudden you got to trump me and who's suffering more? Kill yourself.
I would say, but one last to that point though, like prior to like reading this book, I binge watched a lot of Dr. Farrell's talks. He did a TED talk. He's done several interviews, and he's mentioned organizations like MGTOW and MRA. And one of the things he brought up about these organizations, they get sabotaged. And when they get a platform, I think CNN did a special piece on MGTOW, the movement. It was almost a hit piece. It deliberately showed these dudes as insufferable men who just couldn't deal with the issues of society. There wasn't this sort of sympathetic trying to understand what the plight of being a man is like today or has always been. So I think a lot of times when you talk about why can't men be vocal, there are small pockets of men who are essentially forming these groups. The problem is we're not capable of getting that mainstream attraction without being vilified. That's the issue I'm seeing.
Or diminished.
Look, for the sake of moving on to the next question, I'm not going to say what I want to say.
You know what, Kel? Why don't you just put on your pink skirt and just say, listen, you know, I'm a feminist for life.
I'm just quickly say it, and then we'll move on.
That's what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah.
I just feel like I agree. Like they are vilified, and that the voice isn't big enough because it's like, okay, that's any struggle from the beginning. You got to go harder. I'm not big on any situation where it's just like, I'm just gonna sit here and complain and complain, and nothing's been being done about it. That's how I kind of feel like it is. That's my only thing.
Okay, I agree with you on that.
Oh, shoot.
All right. Well, next question.
But I wanted to.
Nah, fuck that butt. Next question.
No.
Hey, no fucking that butt.
It's just that we're still taught to. We're raised to be destructive, and they're raised to communicate and be loving. So it's easier for them to communicate and get on this one accord kind of thing too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all.
All right.
We're not raised to be communicative. Right?
No, we're not. All right. In chapter 3, Dr. Farrell noted that 3 female feminist academics show that women and men are equally as violent towards one another, but yet, according to a 2003 study, he showed women causes still receive $659 million a year. So, it was laced with a lot of statistics. So the question is, what is the better solution? Criminalizing more women or decriminalizing more men?
Can I
go ahead.
take a crack at that?
Go ahead.
I think if you lower the standard and decriminalize men that are abusing and attacking women and hurting women, you open the Pandora's box to allow more men to do it. Sleaze bags. I think the answer is to raise the criminalization of women equally and fairly, the same way it is towards men. So, for instance, I was talking about this subject with a friend of mine, and she was telling me about one of her girlfriends when she gets into an argument with her boyfriend, she punches it, she hits him, she picks up weapons, things that, and she dismisses it because, she's Latin and they're fiery women, and that's the way, it's not like she's hurting him, and it's just like, it's still wrong, no matter what. Like, if a man does it, it's wrong. So if a woman does it, it should be wrong. It should be equally penalized. We've all seen the video of the Cleveland bus driver where this woman punched him in the face and spit on him. And then the minute that he retaliated, he loses his job. Everyone's demonizing him, this, that, and the other. We've all seen the video where, Ray Rice is in the elevator with his girl, and she's all in his face, and she's got her hands on, she's spitting on him, she's hitting him, this, that, and the other. And then he loses it. He loses his cool. Boom, he hits her, and his entire career, his entire life is shot, is gone. The whole thing is, it's like, we completely dismiss anything the woman does wrong and says we're going to hold the man to to the highest extent of the law. If you actually equalize the law and said, you know what, everybody that does this action or this behavior will get this treatment, then you might stop women from doing it, which will probably stop men from retaliating. And then everybody might, be on fair and equal, on equal ground. And you might, put a stop to it altogether.
Yeah, I definitely think you should criminalize more women.
Go ahead,
that one, I'm trying to remember this girl's name. It was Laura Dinka? The young lady that she shot the 5 elementary school children.
Yeah.
And then, this is from the book.
Yeah.
Shot the 5 elementary school children. She killed the 8-year-old boy, said he was a rapist. She burned the other 2 boys in the basement. Like, she did a lot of killing.
Yeah.
And she killed all these males. And nobody, I hadn't even heard of this story.
Scratch the male. She killed a whole bunch of kids, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were still males.
Don't dismiss the boys, bro. Look what you just said, man. You said scratch the males.
Scratch the males, exactly.
Well, I mean, not just the fact that they was males, but they was kids too. That's what I'm saying.
But what if she was white and they were black? Would you have said scratch the black?
Well, if they was kids, I still would have said that.
You would have said scratch the. You would definitely say that they're kids. But the whole thing is, if you attack a black man, you're white and you attack a black man, it's considered racist. If you're a male attacking a female, you're considered less of a man. But if you're a woman attacking anybody, there's no label to it. It's just an attack.
just an attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all it is. The victim is completely what's the word I'm looking for? Unvalidated.
Removed.
You know, like the victim doesn't count. Doesn't matter if they're black. Doesn't matter if they're white. Because, you know, it's a woman. It's okay.
Well, no, I was just saying that to say it made it worse.
It's like it's like to go back. To go back to it, Henry, with the book also, when he was talking about the guy, the Central Park guy, he was, he was attacked and he saw other people in Central Park being attacked. He reported it to police. He called police to see if his report got any traction. They told him that nothing had ever been reported. He reported 3 times and nothing had been reported. The young lady reported one time that somebody was following her and instantly had police patrolling the whole park. So it's just the whole, you know what I mean? It's a lack of respect thing for men in general. You know, people look at a man, like if I go in a police station and say, look, I want to file charges against this young lady who raped me, they're going to laugh at me.
Story.
Yeah, probably they might help me once they see the seriousness on my face, but they're going to laugh at me eventually. I mean, initially. It's just going to be like, bro, what the fuck, bro, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, I want to press charges. A woman comes in and, you know, you got people coming from behind the door and shit. They're trying to escort her in. They want to give her water and coffee and donuts, sit her down, put her feet up and shit, rub her back and try to figure out what the hell is the problem with her.
Yeah. Really? Is everybody coming out the back?
No, but I mean,
I do think, let me jump in real quick. I do think that they should be, I think they should be treated fairly as far as that whole criminal, as far as them whole, both being held accountable. I just wonder, and I honestly don't know this. Do you think that when the average woman commits whatever crime, she is aware of the family outside of rape? Outside of rape. I mean,
no, from the very beginning,
when she commits a crime?
No. Let me finish. When she commits this crime, does she know? Okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to be penalized as hard. There's a chance that I'm going to be, set scot free. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
From infantry, like little boys and girls from kindergarten. When you have a young boy who hits a girl, he's immediately reprimanded for that. But when the girl hits a boy, nothing is said. Nothing is said. But now when he retaliates because he got hit by this girl, he's the one receiving being reprimanded for his actions. So it's just like from a very early on age, girls are being subtly taught that they could get away with these sorts of physical attacks on men, and nothing will come down on them.
I'll give you a prime example. One of the trainers at my gym, Theus, right? So, we know a lot of people in martial arts, this, that, and the other, and boxing and fighting, this, that, and the other. So, a couple that, they're both fighters, the husband, the girlfriend and the boyfriend, right? So, they had been having some arguments lately, this, that, and the other. So the boyfriend says, I'm going out. She says, where do you think you're going? He's like, I'm going out. And she tells him, you better not leave. He's like, man, whatever. He starts walking away from her, right? As he's at the top, as he's about to start stepping down the stairs, she does a spinning hook kick to the side of my man's head.
Oh my God.
All right. And my man goes down the stairs, takes a tumble down the stairs, ends up, with a concussion and end up in a cast. Goes to court over this shit. The judge says, that basically he basically dismissed it. He basically dismissed it as like, you guys got to work this out. You got to talk about this, that, and the other. You seek counseling, blah, blah, blah. Case dismissed.
Yeah, bro. You got
had a man. Now, if you don't know what a spinning hook kick is,
you're right.
YouTube it.
Yo,
all right?
This
is a trained fighter. She knows what she can do. She knows how to, execute well. So it's not like she was, somebody who does not know what she's doing, or she just smacked him. It didn't hurt him. No, she did a spinning. This is not a move that you do just because you're just emotional. No, you have every intent to do serious damage to a person. All right. And even though this man, was injured, the judge dismissed it.
What you were saying, Smith?
No, I was saying I've seen that exact scenario. It wasn't a spin hook kick, but I've seen that, in the school system. I see that a lot. What you were saying, where it is taught earlier on, in kindergarten. It's not dealt with in middle school. It's not dealt with in high school. The high school is where you start seeing it more, where the girls start punching the boys more and wanting to slap them and things like that, want to put their hands. Still equating violence with love or love with violence, whatever the case may be. But you see that spinning hook kick scenario. And what happens is, a girl, well, let's send her to the guidance counselor. She needs to talk to somebody. The boy, let's suspend him for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, the boy didn't do anything. You know what I mean? The boy didn't do anything but get slapped and then tried to smack her, but he got stopped. He's getting a 2-week suspension. She's getting talked to the counselor. She's in school the next day. The boy got a suspension on his record for trying to get her, but he never even got to her because he was stopped. You know what I mean? There's that scenario.
Man, and even what was so blatant about it, like there was judges and lawyers that he noted got quotes from. They're just like, yeah, we blatantly know the double standards exist. It is what it is.
Yes, it is what it is. You know they exist, and don't get caught in one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And like to have that sort of admission from you, talking about people within the system who knows that the double standard exists and they not trying to fix it, man. I just look at the situation like, look, yo, if the 14th Amendment is saying to treat everyone fairly and equally, I'm with, we got to start criminalizing women more, period. And men need to stop pussyfooting around. When a chick assaults you, you need to call the cops and file those charges, period.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
And here's the reality. Like I said before, it boils down to the fact of this double standard of, women want equality, but they still want to be treated as the weaker sex because men are physically stronger, or the fact of we look at, when we think of most of us, when we relate to women, our first woman in our life was our mom. So we think of our mom as the nurturing one, the sweet one, the gentle one, just that, so that reference is how we generally view women. While daddy was either the really strong one, the stoic one. So you're like, he can handle it. Don't worry about him. Or daddy wasn't, around either because he's not with mommy anymore, or he's working 3 jobs to pay the bills.
Fellas, if y'all aren't sure what numbers to call an emergency, 911.
You know what, Henry?
But you know what, though? Like, even if you call 911, he just told you the story. Like, once it even got to the courtroom, it got dismissed.
It gets dismissed in the court. So I love part of that is this. So
mind you, Henry, that's also a woman that knows how to defend herself.
Yeah, a lot of it too.
That's a woman that knows how to defend herself.
We just cut Smith off. Go ahead, Smith.
Yeah, because they're looking at the male. They're looking at the male. And when you're looking at the male, you're saying, well, he doesn't need to do anything so we can send him off to jail. They're looking at the female and saying, well, she's probably a mom, and who's going to take care of these kids? They don't always want to take the mom away from the kids because they still want to, quote unquote, call themselves protecting the kids, even though it doesn't work when they're inserting the father. So they still have this preconceived notion. That's why the judges do that. And whether they know, whether they're aware of it, consciously or subconsciously, whether they know this or not, that still is a bit of it. They think of a woman as the nurturer, the mother, the carer, They think of the male as this, once again, disposable. So you're going to get the harsher charge for the male, and the woman that lied and said, a black man kidnapped the kids and pushed them in the water, in the river, in the car, drunk. And
I remember that.
You know what I mean? They're still going to placate to the woman.
Yeah.
While they're beating down a bunch of black men that had nothing to do with this shit. Anyway.
Yeah, I know, Smith, they did mention that in the book as far as the women being looked at, who's going to take care of the kids. They also mentioned, though, from the lawyer standpoint, and this probably has to do with the fact is he wants to boost his success rate of victory
his
rate.
winning record.
He knows, like, he would tell the women, yo, this is how you need to dress. When you're going into the courtroom, this is how you need to look towards the jury, but don't look, you don't want to come across as too soft or too masculine, whatever. So,
dude, we went to a Broadway play, Chicago. Chicago did it that. I don't know if you guys ever seen the film or went to the Broadway film. Yeah,
it's Chicago Super Theater, right?
Yeah. So
I saw it years ago.
It's the same thing. You got a chick who killed her husband, and like they played her up as this battered woman when she was out here being reckless.
She was out here being reckless.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But next question.
Hey,
what's up, Sven?
Bradley, before you move on to that next question, that whole section, I meant to add a question about that, but I'm not going to formulate it right now. But that whole section about the movies, I love that section.
Yeah. And
I like movies. I watch a lot of movies. That was like
97% of the violence are male victims. Even like I remember real quick, not to deviate so much. I remember one time my wife was watching Law and Order, and her favorite show of Law and Order is like the Special Victims Unit. And I remember just watching it and sitting down with her and binge watching these shows. And I'm like, yo, are they not going to show one male victim as being raped or being like, a victim of a woman just doing something? And Dr. Farrell actually touches on the show early on in his book, how there's been like thousands, hundreds of episodes, and there's been less than 10 episodes dedicated to men being the victims.
Mm.
It just goes it's crazy.
And now that you think about it, because I watch SVU time to time, and I don't recall that. Or it'll be a story of a guy, the older woman took advantage of the younger guy, but instead of them going after the older woman, they go after the younger guy because he didn't kill somebody for the older woman that he wasn't supposed to be sleeping with this 15-year-old boy anyway.
Yeah. It's that crazy. It's like, yo, I remember watching the R. Kelly docu-series, right? Look, this by means is going to be no defense of R. Kelly. What he did was atrocious. But I stopped watching it after the third installment. But there was I forget which installment touches on it. But they talked about how R. Kelly was molested by his older sister. And I was like, rather than, they didn't even elaborate or go any deeper, because obviously they wanted to portray R. Kelly as being a monster that he is, which, I have no problem with it. It is what it is. But I would have loved to hear that dynamic. Like, what is it about, what happened with R. Kelly and his older sister that made him because obviously she made him the monster that he is, but but that got easily dismissed. But it got touched on, but it was no further elaboration as to the circumstances surrounding that.
Gotcha.
Well, anyway, the next question. This is a Black Zeus question. Women claim to be the victim to a male-dominated world, yet claim to be harassed, mentally and physically abused by a man with little to no evidence, which ultimately ruins a man's life. However, if the situation is reversed, there is hardly any consequence penalty for a woman. What should men do to protect themselves?
So the reason for the question.
Be celibate.
Record everything.
Record everything and be celibate.
You talking that outcast stuff, man. You talking that outcast stuff. You're gonna be on the outskirt, man. They're gonna kick you out, man. You're gonna not be part of the club. But real talk though, the reason why I bring this up is that though there are women that are facing real trouble being harassed, being abused mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, there is a percentage, a large percentage of women, that have, and studies have shown up to 27% of cases where men are falsely accused of being a rapist or being mentally abusive or whatever the case is, and women use this as a defense to get away from any crime. It's like, if you know what, I'm gonna kill my husband for the insurance money, but if I get caught, I'll say he abused me, and people will completely buy into that. Or if there was one case, I think I gotta look that up, but there was a brother that was in college. He was like an all-star, this, that, and the other. He was going to college, and I think he was a black young man, and long story short, he was a popular college kid, high football player, this, that, and the other. Could have gone to the NFL, X, Y, and Z. There was a certain female that had a beef with him. Some of it, from my understanding, stemmed from him being in interracial relationships, and this black woman, put a claim against him that he raped her. My man gets locked up with no evidence, goes to prison. After years of being in prison, they find out that he was innocent. It's too late. His life is already ruined.
Is this the Brian Banks story?
That might be it.
Yeah, the Brian Banks story.
Familiar.
Yeah, they did a film on it. Yeah.
Brian Banks.
It was crazy. Like, what?
I think like, and
this woman got no penalty, by the way, for ruining this man's life.
I think, in that situation, or any situations that's similar, where you find a male who goes to jail and is wrongly accused, it's tough to. There's no way to get back the time that he's lost. But I think the consequence of the way that you fix it, you gotta prosecute any women who lies with extreme punishment.
I agree.
They don't do it. Like, that's the only way. If you get found out that you was lying, it gotta be like, it gotta be the same thing when you look at, you getting caught with marijuana. How many pounds, whatever you I don't want to say blowing out of proportion, but you're making the punishment super harsh. It needs to be the same thing so that women don't do it. Because now you're making, I'll say this, I'll let you go, Brad. You're making it in a situation where it's like, the women who are in the actual situations, now it's being doubted. Or you're making it harder for them. You're making it harder for them, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Now, there are some women who are facing consequences for false reports of, rape or what have you. And they have received some time for it, but it doesn't happen at a large enough scale to really shift the pendulum, to really have women be accountable for their actions. What should men do to protect themselves? In all honesty, I don't even know, bro. Like, after reading these first 12 chapters, I'm not going to front, and I don't know about you guys, I'm feeling a little bit helpless because I'm reading this, and Dr. Farrell, with all of his, noting of stories, of accounts of like how legal defenses will never see a man's way due to the 12 defenses, which is going to be the next question. I just don't know what men could do by and large to really shift the pendulum to protect themselves outside of like, I'm just not going to be around women type of shit. Like not being in relationships, not being in marriages. You got some men like that. You got some men who just see, like Shu just mentioned. You got MGTOWs. You got some men who was raised, who saw their uncle got butt raped in a family court system, saw their father get abused, saw their stepfathers like, damn, this is a good dude, but my mom is out here bugging. I got a friend, Kelvin, I got a mutual friend who had a similar story, taking care of a chick. None of those kids are his, house all of the kids, do all of these things for these kids. And she still treated him like shit. It's like, so when I see this sort of dynamic in our society, I don't know what men could do to protect themselves outside of ultimately just saying like, I'm just tapping out. Like, and I'm just going to gauge women from a distance. Like, I'm going to get my fuck on, but it might be on some like escort prostitution shit. Like, I'm just going to pay you to bounce.
Well, I think that men need to do just that. They need to think. I think they need to think. I think they need to read a little more. I think they need to express themselves a little more. I think they need to have a team of good stand-up dudes that they can go to and talk to and bounce things off. I think men have to surround themselves the same way that women surround themselves with other women, not the catty women, not the catty bratty Cathys, but the stand-up women that actually want each other to succeed, you know? So I think if we just because everything that you just said probably is a bit spot on, you know, short of a dude just not wanting to be involved with females. Like, you know, you got to do the peacock and the dances. A lot of things just has to take place. For the courtship, for the union, for anything, it's just a lot of shit that has to take place. And short of you meeting a young lady that's in a illiterate bastards book club for women.
Yo, y'all better be careful because I got a lot of women that are like, I gotta come talk to you fellas. Y'all need a woman's perspective.
Yeah, and I was down for having a woman to read this book alongside with us.
I'm good. I'm good.
And short of that, I don't know, man.
Nah, all right.
Nah, bro, we gotta have something for ourselves, man. I'm good.
Okay, all right. No, that's what's up. That's what's up.
True story.
Oh, they coming to take it over.
They trying. They can try.
They get there yet. They come.
Listen, we gotta make our last stand here. You know, they got the Boy Scouts.
Like custard, huh? We doing the General Custard last stand, baby.
Yo, I'm saying, you know, like 300. You know, they'll know at the end of 300. 300 Spartans stood against them. You know, we might lose, but we gonna make a stand. You know,
but you know what?
A little valley and a little gorge.
But to be honest, man, as men, similar to the women's suffrage, I remember a couple of weeks ago I was watching PBS American Experience, and they did like a 4-hour piece on the women's suffrage movement, and that did not launch without some men assisting in that movement. And I'm saying for men, in order for us to get the rights and get the protection that we're looking for, you need some women allies to be on board and to be the voice for men. Because unfortunately, if it's just men by itself, that people aren't by and large ain't trying to hear us. So I think I think you need some women allies, yo. I think you just need you need the right type of woman, but you need some women allies.
Yeah, the right type of women.
Just not in this book club.
All right, just not in this book club. All right, last question. In chapter 12, Dr. Farrell breaks down the 12 legal defenses that women receive to either exonerate or give them significantly lesser prison times. Thoughts on these 12 defenses and actual events surrounding each defense. I didn't necessarily have a question for this, but what was very illuminating were how these women, and Kelvin this morning said the LA Times article from 1989, I believe, of a situation where a woman just straight up killed her husband and she just got off. Just wanted to get you guys' feedback in regards to what do you guys thought of Dr. Farrell's 12 defenses that women tend to get when it comes to the judicial system and the stories surrounding them.
Honestly, the one that stood out to me the most was the PMS defense. That one irritated my nerve. I think back on a girlfriend I had that, that like when it came to that time of the month, she went on full bitch mode and she got a pass because it was that time. To the point where I was so well trained, I used to keep Motrin and chocolate bars in my nightstand, on deck in case she, it was that time. And she was, because that was the only thing that would kind of subside the beast is having Motrin and Hershey bars, But the whole thing is, and she would go, when I say she went ballistic, I have, quite the knife and sword collection. She took one of my very expensive katanas and annihilated my mattress, my artwork, walls, CDs, everything she could swipe that thing through, it went through like she was, the white chick from Kill Bill. She was just going in. And then after that, she's like, I'm sorry, this time of the month I get, and my dumb ass was like, okay, I understand, Like, and anyway, long story short, if a man were to say, I had testosterone, issues, that would not fly. That would not fly. But, a woman can always say, oh, PMS is not my fault. That to me is one of the biggest bullshits ever. One of the biggest bullshits ever. But, y'all could chime in.
Yeah. I think the one defense that irritated me the most, and I see it most common, is the battered woman syndrome defense. Every time I've seen or read stories about, and I think there's, what's that network called? One Women, Oxygen, and it was like that.
Oxygen.
Yeah, Oxygen, and they got that television series called Snap, where women be out
here.
Yeah. You remember that? And
that.
like the extent that women go to kill, killing their husband, and the defense is always he did something. He was always physically and mentally abusive. And Dr. Farrell pointed out, 30% of these women has a history of being violent, prior to that relationship. And the ability to get away scot-free, showing that this woman has a prior offense of being violent, just bothers the hell out of me. I'm not trying to say that women don't get abused. I know I have known women who've been physically abused, and and I've known those situations. And yes, those men were horrific and horrible individuals. But man, so many times, there's been no account for a man being abused in a relationship, and immediately, she was abused. Therefore, she had to fucking run him over with a car. She had to stab him in his sleep. She had to poison his food. That battered woman defense syndrome, and Dr. Farrell laced a whole litany of facts around that.
Mm-hmm.
It irritates the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's the one that irritates me too, because you have the so the defense is, I'm using the battered woman defense. I'm going to slowly poison my husband. I'm going to slowly poison his food over a period of a month so he can slowly die.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm consciously doing this to my husband and I get away with this shit.
Yeah.
How I get away with this?
Well, think of it like this.
So you couldn't leave me at anything. You slowly poisoned me until I die.
Yeah, they did.
You say, "Oh, well, he was abusing me." Are you serious?
They did mention
even real. What we reading, is it even real?
They did mention in the book that a lot of the situations where a man kills a woman is out of rage and passion, but anytime that the woman does it, it's premeditated. She knows what it is.
Yeah.
I'm with this shit.
I'm with you.
When you see the triple ones with that's been coming up lately, where there's a girl with a guy that just left this other girl, it's the woman that has convinced this man to kill the other woman.
The shit
it's not his idea. Most times it's not the male idea. It's the woman idea. She didn't put this shit in his head. And she looking at this well, he gonna get time. I'm not gonna get no time. I'm gonna just say, yeah, I did know about it, but I
didn't think he was gonna do it.
Yeah, I didn't think he was gonna do it.
The one that killed me.
I did rent the truck for him, and I did buy the bags, but I didn't think he was gonna go through with it.
No, the one that killed me was when the dude hired another dude to kill his wife, and the assassin was like, "Yo, I can't do it." He felt bad about killing no woman. It was like, "Yo, I can't do it." And when it snitched on the dude, I just sent y'all. I'm with Shub as far as the whole PMS.
The PMS one.
I sent y'all
a little using it as an excuse.
I sent y'all a little YouTube video that I watched as a TED Talk that talked about how PMS is a myth anyway.
Oh yeah,
check that one out.
I saw that you said that.
But check this out though, right?
And I use the black man myth. My PMS is my black man. When I come off the streets as being a black man, I'm angry as hell when I come in the house. Used to be. I didn't work that out. But if I just started taking katana blades and slicing and dicing shit up, because of this black male thing that I was going through, that had me so stressed, feeling like I'm an endangered species, and I'm fucking got to get get to the perch before they shoot me as the bald eagle out this goddamn place. Like, that's some bullshit.
Yeah.
And mind you, and that same girl that I was with that cut up my shit with the katana blades, she used, like, I was in that relationship with her for 2.5 years. It was a very abusive relationship where whenever, so she was very insecure and jealous and this, that, and the other. And being in my profession, I work with a lot of women. So she would automatically assume something's got to be going on with this woman or that woman because I'm friendly or because we're having too many jokes or laughs or whatever the case may be. And she would go off the handle, saying, oh, are you fucking her? You fucking her? This, that. And I'm like, no, I'm not, and I'd get frustrated with the accusations. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this relationship, this, that, and the other. And she would lose her shit and she would, she would hit me. She would punch me.
I was just about to ask you. I was just about to ask you if she ever put her hands on you.
Now, one time, I was at the gym and I forgot my cell phone back in my apartment where she was. And I got quite a few, messages from female clients like, hey, are we good for this time? Or can I do this, that, blah, blah, blah. But the whole thing is because at the time, you had to have my PIN number to get into my phone. So all you can see is the notification saying, message from Tanya, message from Georgiana, whatever the case may be. So she flipped out. She came down to the gym and was like, why are these bitches texting you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, you crazy. You out of your mind. And she straight punched me dead in my mouth in the gym in front of everybody. And, and it was
bleeding.
Shoot, how you ain't slipped that, bro?
You started bleeding?
You know what? No, but the whole thing was my soul was bleeding. Because I'm I could straight cold knock her out.
My soul
if I do, I'm going to jail.
Yeah, you had to endure that level of embarrassment. Your man,
humiliation.
You know how demasculating
exactly.
that is?
Yeah.
Like it was, long story short, it was bad. But anyway, the whole thing is, that is what the scenario is. And when it comes down to male versus female, this and that, if you heard a story, or if you heard a story about, or majority of people hear a story about a man killing a woman, like in quote unquote self-defense, people will laugh. But if a woman says she killed a man in self-defense, people are like, well, what did he do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They won't even think twice.
Because they think that he battered her. Yeah. What's the second defense that irritated me the most? The children need their mother defense. And like how a woman could essentially commit any sorts of crime if she's a mother. Yeah. It's just like, well, we can't give her this punishment because the child will be left behind. But yet the father's not given that same equal right. Like he's a father, but yet, he got to do 25 to life or some shit like that.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about earlier. Doing that.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Like, for anyone listening, man, these 12 defenses and the cases that Dr. Farrell associates them with, man, it's eye-opening.
Serious.
The statistics in Chapter 11 alone, I think what Smith was touching on in regards of television, was that Chapter 11 or Chapter 9? But either way, I think that was Chapter 9 with, how media portrays men being the victim and hardly you see any women being the victim or the perpetrator of violence. It's
Hey Bradley, I don't have it in front. I don't remember all of them. Read them 12 defenses for the audience.
You have the innocent women defense, you have the PMS defense, you have the husband defense, you have the battered woman syndrome defense, aka learned helplessness, you have the depressed mother defense, baby blues and terrible twos, you have the mother don't kill me defense, you have the children need their mother's defense. You have the blame the father, understand the mother defense. You have the my child, my right to abuse it defense. And I think I'm missing quite a few. Let me just get through it real quick.
Now, if y'all can tell me what defense is going to help the male, what defense? These are all women defenses. Which one of those do you think we can try to use as a male?
That's a good question.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat room, please.
Yeah, the plea bargain defense and the contract killing defense. Defend self by hiring someone else. Actually, there was an episode
The contract killing defense.
Yo, this chick literally, actually, back to the battered woman syndrome defense. Dr. Farrell even pointed out that a lot of the times when the women killed their husband and they use that whole he was abusive, they come to find out a lot of times there's an insurance policy motive behind that killing. So women out here be like, I'm trying to collect this insurance money, so therefore I'm gonna lace his fucking, like Smith was saying, I'm gonna lace his food with arsenic for the next month, killing.
Yeah.
And the chick, and when they did
so part of that, what happens is because some women are taught to go get the sugar daddy. The sugar daddy sometimes is older, so she's younger. She's like 30 years younger than him. He's older. She's done. She got married to him, but it was just for financial support. So she got to kill this guy.
Yeah.
So she could get on with her life.
Well, they also pointed out how she's doing the math and saying like, yo, this dude's making 30 G's a year.
Yeah.
So over the next 5 years, I'm only getting 150 from this dude, but this insurance policy about to pay me $500,000.
Exactly.
I'd rather just go with the insurance policy.
True story. And I remember reading this last year on one of like the local papers, when I used to commute into the city. There was a story about a guy, he was an MTA worker. So he remarried, right? His ex-wife, he remarried. So his new wife straight up hired her boyfriend on the side, on the low, to kill her husband because she wanted not only the insurance policy, but she also wanted the pension, because when you're an MTA worker, you also get a pension. Yo, her big mistake was she didn't realize that the husband never changed the beneficiaries of the policies. So the ex-wife got all of it. So like when she was scrambling to figure out like why she wasn't receiving the insurance policy and why she wasn't receiving the pension, that drew suspicion for the investigators to look into like what was happening. Like, why is this woman hounding for, the pension money, the insurance policy? Come to find out that that's what she was after. But, the ex-wife was the one who received it because he was too lazy to change all of that information when he got remarried.
What about the chick?
Was he too lazy or was he smart? He knew that the new one was going to kill him.
What about the chick who tried to sue the police department because her husband committed a crime, and she was like, yo, I'm suing y'all because you ain't have a better judge of character for choosing the police officer you chose to work. Like, chick, they need to sue you for not having a good character and choosing a husband you chose.
Well, that's that whole, society protecting a woman, and she
society protecting a woman.
But nah, man,
just the whole thing, like just something as simple as, the flat tire on the side of the road, man. Just something as simple as that just shows you, like, all three of y'all know that if y'all had a flat tire, y'all motherfuckers gonna be out there. Y'all know that, right?
Oh yeah, especially being black males and stuff.
Y'all better know
absolutely
that or something.
Yeah, or have triple.
But if a female has a flat tire, we probably always stop to help her if she looks like she's in distress.
Yeah,
that's some bullshit. It ain't nobody stopping for you. You're like, damn, but them 3 times that I stopped, ain't nobody gonna stop for me this one time.
Nah,
no, motherfucker, you better get that spare.
Your car, no,
you better put that donut on your car.
Listen, I've seen dudes on the side of the road. I don't know if you ever seen this shit, where the car is literally on fire and nobody is trying to pull over and help this dude out. Nobody. Do you think somebody would allow that with a female?
Not at all. Nope. You just driving past it real fast, like, damn, that fire big as hell.
Yeah.
You should back up. That car might explode, and you keep it moving.
I've literally seen cars on fire on the side of the highway twice, and it was a dude, and nobody stopped.
Why don't you stop, dude?
Water bottles.
Because I was in the fast lane.
You trying to get the water bottles?
That swerve ain't. I'm not doing the Jersey slide.
Jersey slide.
When you go from like the far left lane over to the right lane because you're trying to get over to that exit that you try not to miss. I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
That's that Jersey slide.
That's that Jersey slide.
Now I got your message. Yeah, so yeah, Kel suggested that we put the 12 offenses in the notes. I'll definitely do that. But if anything, man, I think chapter 11 and chapter 12 were the best chapters. I think it put me in such a depressed state. I guess it's like in some twisted way it was the best chapters. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed those 2 chapters, man.
Well, I'll tell you this much. It puts my mind in quite the perspective of like, yo, ride or die, regardless of whatever ever happens with me and my wife, I'm staying with my wife because I ain't trying to go out into that battle zone. Like, all these things is working against you as a male.
Yeah, I'm treating like if anything would have happened to me and my wife, I'm treating all women as business transactions, yo.
Yo, I'm treating all women as a life threat. Okay, I'm like, yo, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm a hermit.
Yes.
I'm living in this cave. As long as I got a refrigerator, Uber Eats, and Pornhub, I'll be all right.
Yeah. Because that's just like walking off a cliff.
Yeah, man. Like Steve was saying earlier, you got to start recording your interactions and shit. Like, yo, it's crazy, man. You start looking at, cases like Johnny Depp. His woman is trying to say that he was abusive. Meanwhile, there's actual recordings showing her being abusive, but yet the public opinion is Johnny Depp is this abusive dude. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, man. It's really crazy.
Hell, I'll even do you one better. In the state of New Jersey, if you caught your wife on videotape, fucking the mailman, the post boy, the pool boy, the next door neighbor, all at one time in a big ass orgy, this, that, and the other, and you came to court with that videotape and said, Your Honor, I want a divorce and this, that, and the other, just like, all right, no problem, here's divorce, she gets half of everything.
Yeah.
What?
That's just crazy.
That's crazy.
That's just crazy.
What?
Yeah, that's just crazy. And then that's what makes the motherfucker go and kill a girl. See, that's when he go kill her.
Yeah.
That's when he loses it. That's when he snaps.
Yeah.
But mind you, if it was the other way around.
That's a snap for men, huh?
Nah, there isn't a snap for men.
If it was the other way around, it'd be like, yo, he cheated on me, boo hoo hoo. Oh, the monster. We'll tear him from from dollar to dollar, penny to penny.
Yeah.
We'll leave him in a box.
We're gonna hit you with the $2 million a month.
Oh, let me hit you with something interesting. Hit you with an interesting fact that I was just talking to P about yesterday. So for instance, our state of New Jersey, it's a woman's body, woman's right? Something like that. Her
body, my choice.
Yeah.
Her body, her choice,
yeah.
Yeah.
So your wife that you're married to, y'all lay down, y'all conceive a child. She decides she doesn't want it. She does not need your consent in order to, exit that child, right? But you, as a male, if you decide, you know what, we got enough kids, we got 3 kids, we got 2 kids, whatever, we got no kids. I don't want to have kids. I'm going to go get snipped. You get there, the doctor says, I'm sorry, I need your wife's signature before I can, cut your nuts. Think about that one. Where's the his body, his choice?
Yeah.
Think about that one.
Yeah, so basically if he's trying to get a vasectomy, he's married, he has to get his wife approval. But like
to sign off.
Yeah, to sign up. But I want to know if a chick is willing to tie her tubes, and she's married.
No, she does not have to get the husband's approval. My ex-wife did that shit. Yeah, my ex-wife did it. She didn't have to get my approval.
Wow.
Ain't that?
I found out when I was like, yo, what the fuck are they doing? She's like, oh, I'm getting my shit. I'm getting my tubes tied. Oh, you are? What the fuck? Nobody said anything. Yeah, no, they don't have to get your approval. Their body, their choice. Didn't you just say it? Damn, my body, my choice. It's their body, their choice. Yeah. They don't have to get any approval.
But mind you, this is a patriarchy. This is a male-dominated world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I have a friend of mine who says, well, isn't men that make the laws? And, Dr. Farrell points out, it may be men that make the laws, but those men are answering to women voters that make up 54% of the vote.
Exactly. Yeah,
so
we
he might be the driver.
The laws that the
you know, he might be the chauffeur, but she's sitting in the back seat like, you better not make that left turn, bitch.
Yeah. And you know, and I don't want to make this sound scary because, you know, I don't want to necessarily paint women as this, you know, our villainous counterpart, but you are having a lot of women enter the legal system, being judges and lawyers and stuff like that, like at a very large rate compared to men. Like, I think I read something a few months back regarding, like, when you look at law school today, the scale is tipping to show more women are entering law school than men, and they're becoming more judges than men. So you're going to see more of these sort of disparities. Hopefully not. I'm trying to be hopeful, but you're going to see more of these sort of disparities in sentencing and laws. Quite possibly.
Listen, I'm not demonizing women overall. You know what I mean? Like, you know.
I just don't, you know.
I'm just saying the fact of, you know, the way the women say that there's this patriarchy, they're only looking at in certain areas that men outnumber women. They're not looking at how society rules favor women, you know, because you're never gonna. It's the age-old human thing to notice what I don't got versus notice what I do have.
Well, like Dr. Farrell said, it's straight up unconstitutional.
True story.
Violating the 14th Amendment. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah.
We got to stand up for ourselves, fellas.
Man, you keep saying that.
Lead, Henry.
Yeah, you keep saying that.
No. We're gonna follow Henry's lead. He's talking and he's gonna start the movement. We right behind you, Henry.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, it started with this book club, man. We gotta get this out to the masses.
All right, but you gonna start the movement. You gonna start the, you know, the Facebook page and
you know,
the announcement to the world. You know that this is what's going on. This is what we doing. We right behind you.
I ain't starting no Facebook page. Y'all give me a list of women who did us dirty. We will go right to their houses and start picketing and boycotting right out front.
Great. We're all going to have restraining orders on us.
Right. It got to start somewhere.
Some literature to read at the door. And straight Jehovah's Witness them.
Word up, you know.
And then this might be next week's questions, though. Like, at what age do we present reading materials like this to the youth? To the male youth.
Let's save that for next week.
Next week, okay.
It's 10:44.
All right,
and I got
fellas.
10:45.
All right, fellas. Well,
it's a wrap. That male power, that curfew, the white stuff.